I'm sure by now, if you're in the real estate world or maybe even looking to buy a home, you've seen in the media about this NAR settlement. But what does that really mean, and how does that affect you as maybe a realtor or maybe as someone that's trying to buy a home or sell a home? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So let's start about how this all happened. A few years ago, there was a lawsuit against NAR, the National Association of Realtors, that came up about the way realtors are paid, buyers and sellers. Ultimately, they got to a settlement, came to a conclusion, it went to the courts, and that's why we're all hearing about it today. So really, what's going to change? Two things are probably the main things are going to be changing. One, in the MLS, where most realtors go to post a listing or look up information about a house that maybe their buyer wants, right now it shows buyer's compensation. What does a buyer's compensation? It means, hey, if I'm selling my house for X dollars, I'm going to give, usually it's a percentage, a certain percent to the buyer's agent. That's usually listed on the MLS as we speak today. That is going away. What they don't want to happen is that listed on the MLS mainly for this reason. And it happens, probably doesn't happen often, but it probably does happen. So somebody could be representing a buyer, looking at the MLS, looking at all the houses that may fit into their buyer's criteria, but then find out the compensation wasn't that great on this house. So I'm not going to show this house to that person or figure a reason of why that house may not be a right fit. Not the right thing to do, but in theory, that could happen. That's why they're trying to get rid of the buyer's compensation on the MLS to not influence the sale of the property or whether a buyer is shown the property. Whether you agree or not agree, that's kind of really the basis of the case, right? They don't want it to be steered away from certain properties. So starting probably sometime this summer on the MLS, if you're a buyer's agent, you're not going to know easily on the MLS what is being offered on that particular house. So now you're going to need to make a phone call, maybe on a certain buyer broker's website, on their direct listings, they can maybe list it, but it's not going to be on the MLS. That's the big thing that's going to change. So are sellers still going to probably pay for buyers, the buyer's commission? Probably. Do they have to? No, they never had to. Everything was always negotiable, right? So whether the fee of selling a house, it was always negotiable. It wasn't like you had to do a flat, whatever it is. Some people did it for this, some people did it for that. Always negotiable, but now they're really trying to make sure that it is negotiable and it's very upfront, right? So I want to be as transparent as it can be. So second step to this is now they're going to actually have, if you're a buyer's agent, you're going to need a buyer broker agreement. What does that mean? If I'm going to sell a house, if I'm going to show a house to somebody, I am going to need an agreement with them before I actually show it to them. Some states are already doing this. I'm here in Florida, right? So that really wasn't the norm for this state. But if I'm not mistaken, there's 13 other states that's a state law that you need to do this. So in some states, not much is changing. It's just maybe depending on the state you are, depending on the local market, what is the norm? So now the norm is going to have to be that if I'm a buyer's realtor and I got to go show somebody a property, I'm going to need some sort of an agreement that allows me to be like, I'm going to show you this property. And if you decide to buy this property, my compensation is going to be X. And that's got to be clarified in the agreement before you go show the property. So the buyer is saying, I am agreeing to pay you whatever that fee is as my buyer's agent. All right. So that is going to be the key piece to when you're putting an offer in on a house. I'm guessing, this obviously isn't out yet, but the seller could still pay for that fee, the buyer's agent fee, like they've always kind of have. It's just going to be more upfront, and it's going to be part of the sales contract, written black and white, so there's no gray area. That's really what's going on here. Business is probably going to be running similar, an extra couple of documents, a little bit more clarity when you're a buyer of how my real estate agent, realtor is getting paid and how much they're getting paid and whatnot. So bottom line is two things. One, MLS is not going to show the compensation. So you're going to make a phone call or find another way of what particular compensation is for that house. And two, if you're a agent and you're showing houses, you're going to need your client to sign a buyer broker agreement. Put your comments below. Let me know your thoughts. And you think this is good or bad for the industry?